Hello, all, and welcome to tonight's beer review, which I am dubbing the food poisoning beer review because guess what I had? Yeah. So, for the first time in over a year, I had to call out sick from work. What it is exactly that made me sick, I don't know. Um, I have my suspicions, but I'm not going to go and pin the blame on any one thing. Anyways, so you might be wondering, well, why are you doing a beer review if you had food poisoning just like literally 2 days ago? And the answer is because I'm feeling a bit better now. I think I can handle one beer, especially since I ate something, so it's not all on an empty stomach. So what will we be reviewing tonight? Well, this is a bottle of Echigo Stout. Continuing on with these Echigo reviews. Now, this particular one was a gift courtesy of my father's friend who enjoys my reviews apparently. So he bought me a couple bottles to review. And so I fully intend to do so. Now, this is categorized within the review sites as an Irish dry stout, but at 7% ABV, I think that's kind of dubious to classify this as an Irish dry stout. Doesn't say Irish dry stout anywhere on the bottle. Dating code is again something that's just random numbers. Of course, Echigo again mentioned out of Niigata, Japan, craft brewery there. Now, like I said, I like the art on this one, and I didn't quite catch it at first, but if you look at it, it's a gold and black design of a man playing taiko drums, which are those large Japanese drums. Boom, 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 and they all slide around, hitting them, and they have like a whole routine that they do with it and everything. It's as much like a dance routine as it is a drum routine. You know, real performance, as it were. So, without much further ado, I'm going to be pouring this into the stout glass. It's been sitting out for a bit because I've been having camera problems. This is about like the fifth take so far. So, I'm going to hold this straight up to the light. A very almost opaque, visibly black, but if you hold it directly up to the light, it comes through as a sort of ruby red, right at the very bottom, with a beige to light brown head. I'd say consider this to be frothy. Coffee notes, toasted brown bread, bittersweet chocolate, carob, on the chocolate to coffee, bar, because I kind of find that stouts either more chocolate kind of nose to it or more coffee kind of nose to it. This one has a bit more of a coffee nose than a chocolate nose. Can't really get much in the way of the hop note here. Maybe just a slight herbaceousness, but that could be also part of the malting. Again, just very toasty, very dark, as a stout should be. Onto the palate now, shall we? Mm. Fairly thick and chewy texture. but not oily. Definitely comes across on the drier side. So my dubiousness in regards to it being labeled an Irish dry stout is that most Irish dry stouts aren't very high ABV. They usually are around 3.5 to about 5.0 ABV. However, this is fairly dry. Decent amount of carbonation sensation on the tongue. And a little bit cold, so it's kind of closed up a little bit. So I'm going to give it the full grasp to help warm it up a bit quicker here using my own body heat. So hop bitterness and very toasted bread malt finish. Very toasted, like you know how you have toast that can be really dark sometimes, it tastes like that. Up front, just a really brief flash of sweetness before the dryness, or really the sweetness clears the palate by the mids. Some mild oxidization notes in the mid to finish. Nothing too bad, but it probably has been on the shelf for a bit. Up front, carob, very bittersweet chocolate, almost no sugar content, very dark chocolate. In the mids, more of a blonde roast coffee note kind of kicks in there. So not a very dark roast, but a light roast. But still black coffee. No hint of milkiness to it. As it warms up, due to me holding it like this, it's kind of expanding, so sweetness is becoming a bit more apparent. But at the same time, the hop bitterness is also kind of showing itself a little bit more. It's not a very aromatic hop, but it is a strongly bittering one, kind of balancing out that sugar there of the malts and leaving an overall dry sensation in the long finish. Well, definitely thicker bodied than your typical Irish dry stout. It doesn't feel like it pushes all the way to a 7.0. It definitely feels a bit lighter than that, like a 6.0 thereabouts. effervescent top note is somewhat muddy. Mostly of the toasted malts. Not really toasted bread, but more of the toasted malt notes. And bread has a bit more pop to it. What's interesting is sort of carob notes that are there in, especially as it warms up now. Yeah, it definitely has much more of that herbaceous slash carob kind of note there in the regular nose, but it's not there in the top note at all. Interesting that. As it warms up too, the coffee note is becoming much more apparent in the long finish. So yeah, Echigo Stout. Says it's a Irish dry stout as opposed to, just a regular stout or an imperial stout. And in some ways it isn't, but at the same time, in some ways it is. It's fairly interesting. I would like to go and see this, at its freshest, but short of going to Japan, that's probably not possible at all. It's not a prohibitively expensive beer. Again, this is only about $3.50 to about $4 for the bottle. Pretty good for a Japanese craft beer import. Do I enjoy it? Yeah. I would find this one particularly hard to go and pair with a particular food, though. Most interesting to me is the much more apparent hop profile, bittering hop profile that shows up in the finish, as well as the herbaceous note in the nose. So, if stouts are your style, I'd say definitely go and give this one a visit. Now, stouts aren't my particular wheelhouse. It's something that I will drink and I will seek out at times, but it's not something, that I regularly return to. This was interesting enough to me that if you're a stout fan, I think that you might actually get a pretty fair amount of mileage out of this. So, Echigo Stout, craft beer from Japan. Give it a shot. It's not too expensive, and it's fairly interesting, I think. And that, folks, is your beer review for this evening. Kampai.